Welcome back to ReadingBear. Today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled, Clean the Whole Engine? I'll clean out your wallet. This happened in my grade 12 mechanics class. The entire course revolved around removing, disassembling, fixing, and then reassembling a car's engine. I was very mechanically inclined for my age, owned like 6 cars by the time I was 17. I also had experience rebuilding the same motor I was assigned to work on, Honda D series. We had a group of 4 and along with myself, my group had one other super talented guy and 2 other dudes who had done their fair share of wrenching on their own time. Needless to say, we were way ahead of schedule and my shop teacher was not happy about it. We had our engine out before some groups even had the exhaust disconnected. As soon as we hauled the engine out and set it down, our shop teacher told us to clean the entire engine. His reasoning was the grease and oil on the engine was unsafe and our hands could slip on it. If you've ever dealt with grease before, you know brake clean gets that stuff right off. So that's what we did. 6 cans of brake clean, 5 cans of sea foam, and 2 cans of WD-40 later, that engine looked the same it did when it rolled off the assembly line. We even sprayed some silicone lubricant on the gaskets and penetrating oil into all the bolt holes we could to make disassembling the engine even easier. After class that day I found myself at the auto parts store to pick up some parts for the ungodly amount of project cars I had. In the store I see my mechanics teacher, handing over 2 $100 bills to the person on the till with a bunch of cans of brake clean, WD-40, sea foam, silicone lube, and penetrating oil in his basket. He left us alone after that, and we had the engine back in the car and running like a clock with 2 months left in the semester. Ended up having a beer with him and the other savvy guy in my group after we graduated. Lots of laughs about clearing his wallet out. We both bought him a 6-pack to make up for it. Haven't had that much fun turning a wrench since. Good times. The next one is titled, Wanna Hide in the Back and Clean During Dinner Rush? I'll go outside and shake a board. When I was 18, I was a shift lead at a pizza chain known for its cheap prices. My store manager, Sarah, was a real piece of work. One Friday afternoon, I was closing manager this day. She heard corporate would be visiting soon, which made her panic. She hid in the employee bathroom for her shift to clean. It was a 1-person bathroom. It doesn't take 7 hours to clean a single toilet. The district manager, Thad, came in that day. It was pretty slow, so he wanted 2 shaker boarders outside to bring customers in. Sarah always made me take registers, which I despised. So, while she was hiding in the back, my co-shift lead, Jacob, and I said we would to go out. We had fun with it. It was about to storm, super windy with dark clouds and lightning. We ran back and forth with the ad signs, putting on a show for the cars driving by. It started getting busy. Jacob asked if we should go in to help. We were following Thad's orders, and I wasn't going in until told otherwise. After about 35 minutes, Sarah comes running out screaming at us. Why the hell are you outside when the lobby is packed? Me, Thad wanted shaker boarders, so my 2 managers go out? Bullshit. You should have sent the new kids. Get back inside. Me, it's about to storm. I wouldn't send my team out in this weather. I get on the register. We went back in and she ran back to the bathroom to clean. We got through the rush and all was fine. She always made a mountain out of a molehill, dipped the moment all was clear, then took credit for good numbers. I don't miss working in fast food. The next one is titled, Karen's Bad Day at the Fair. So this is a short one, but one of my favorite Karen experiences working on the carnival. I ran a lemonade stand at the time, and I was pretty young, maybe 19 to 20. I had been working this job for quite some time now, and while there was no official manager position for the stand, that's the role I played. It was a pretty slow day, so I was the only one in the stand, my coworker being on an extended break. We often take 2 to 3 hour breaks alternating through the day. You know that meme, the original Karen meme? Yeah, that woman, or at least very well could have been her, walks up to my stand to order a lemonade, followed by who I assume is her son, close in age to myself. I have made literally thousands of lemonades at this point working fairs. There's one simple recipe, and unless I'm asked prior to adjust it, which I'm happy to do, I make it per our recipe. Well, I make the lemonade, and hand it to her. After one sip, Karen becomes furious. Karen, did you put sugar in this lemonade? Me, yeah, why? Karen, you don't put sugar in lemonade. Me, yes ma'am, that's part of our recipe. Karen, well you don't put sugar in my lemonade. Me, well if you'd like one without sugar I'm happy to make you one, but I didn't know. Karen, I shouldn't have to ask, you don't put sugar in lemonade. Karen's son is in the background mouthing apologies profusely, this is not her first rodeo. Me, okay. My apologies ma'am, let me make you another one. I go to my cooler where I had stored away a 1-gallon jug of pure lemon juice I had squeezed the day before from lemons that would not hold up much longer in the heat, take a cup with some ice and fill it to the brim. No water to dilute it. Straight lemon juice. I hand her the cup and watch her take a sip, even more angry. Karen, what the hell is this? Give me my money back. Me, I'm sorry ma'am but I don't do refunds for custom orders. Karen, almost yelling, I need to speak to your manager right now. Me, I am the manager. Please leave my stand. A good 5 to 10 seconds go by while she stands there, incredulous and absolutely fuming before her son, trying to hold back a smile, convinces her to leave so they can go try a different stand. I still feel bad for the son to this day, as he was incredibly embarrassed over the situation and seemed like a pretty polite guy. Beyond me how a woman with that sort of entitlement could possibly raise a son like that, but who knows what was going on in her life that day. Either way it makes no difference to me, I got my sweet revenge. The next one is titled, Oh, I'll Clean the Oven. Many years ago, a day after I finished moving out of my first apartment, my landlord called me up to say that I would not be getting my security deposit back because I had not cleaned the oven. I didn't want to lose that $100, so I asked if I could come back and clean it. They said it had to be cleaned by X date, so I agreed that it would happen. On X day I show up ready to clean the oven only to open the door and see that they had, just that day, re-varnished the parquet flooring in the apartment. I called the landlord and explained my predicament and they insisted that if the oven wasn't clean I lost the deposit. Cue malicious compliance. I tied my shoes on tight, and slowly walked across the sticky varnish leaving footprints with every step. It took me 30 minutes to clean the oven and the varnish fumes burned my eyes and lungs, but I got that oven sparkling. The next day I got a call from the superintendent of the building yelling at me that I ruined the floor and that the new tenants were supposed to move in that day. He yelled that it would cost $400 to fix and that they had to delay the tenant move in on order for it to dry. I calmly relayed the fact that I had asked the landlord about it and was told that unless that oven was clean I lost my cash. He apologized and said he was going to have some choice words for the landlord. Luckily I had already dropped off my keys and got my deposit back. The next one is titled, Dig There? Really? Okay. Way back when I was working for a small company that was a mixture of contract and retail floristry, and landscaping. One of our clients was a large local conferencing hotel. We started off supplying them with flowers for their corporate clients, and then their main points of customer contact, and finally the boss talked them into letting us work on the grounds as well. After a few years of this very profitable arrangement, they asked us to help with the installation of a new CCTV system. Specifically, they wanted the other boss, it was a partnership, to use his mini digger to create the trenches for the cables. We were fine with this. Boss 2 loved using his little digger, and Boss 1 would accrue more prestige within the hotel. However, because they weren't stupid, both bosses wanted the okay of the hotel's telco that the planned route was safe, and definitely would not involve putting the digger bucket through the hotel's main trunk. This was agreed. Then we came to try to get the okay. Said telco, known affectionately as brainless tossbots by those who've had to deal with them, did in fact have a service for just this eventuality. What they didn't do was provide staff to answer the phone. After a week or so of trying, we still had only a vague idea of where the trunk was, and so Boss 2 was reluctant to put digger to turf. Boss 1 was fielding calls from the purchasing manager, the FOH manager, the deputy manager and finally the general manager, all of whom had been getting crap from the hotel's owners. Boss 1 was polite but firm with them all, pointing out that delaying the installation of the CCTV was surely less disruptive than cutting off all communications into and out of a conferencing hotel. 4 managers agreed with him. The owners didn't. Finally, Boss 1 said that he would tell Boss 2 to start digging only on receipt of a written order to do so that also absolved the company of any and all resulting damages. The fax machine whirred into life. I said that this was way back when. Boss 1 called Boss 2. Boss 2 started work. Within 5 minutes, the hotel had lost all communications. On a Friday afternoon, their peak time for getting last-minute booking requests from people with a money-sense ratio I can only dream of. Oh, the hotel also worked with insurance companies. They had a number of apartments that were hideously expensive, but were also popular when it came to housing people who'd had house fires and the like. Of course, they tried to deflect this. We showed the owners their written instruction, which was nice. When the telco got involved, they also tried to blame us. We pointed out that if they'd provided their service as advertised, we'd have known where not to dig. We did not end up on the hook for the damaged telephone trunk, or the hotel's lost sales. Sadly, I was not privy to the arrangement reached between the hotel and the telco, but I did notice a reduction in quotes for any hard landscaping work at the hotel. Really, people? If someone is looking out for your best interests, and they ask for your repeated instructions in writing, have a think about what you're demanding. The next one is titled, Everything on the Side. This happened about 1.5 years ago at the restaurant I work at. I'm a line cook and at the time there was a server we'll call Kevin who was cross-trained and sometimes worked both. So in other words he knows how annoying some special orders can be for the cooks. We also happened to be besties and would constantly instigate the other to go one step farther. So at this point in time we were understaffed and happy hour was actually unhappy hour for me. My shift didn't start till 3 but I'd come in at 2 to use the hour as time to set up my station since we weren't given prep time. At least that was the theory. What actually ended up happening was the morning crew would see me, assume their shift is done, and bail so I'd be stuck running the whole line alone the first hour of happy hour. It sucked. Now this particular request wasn't the worst I've had, simply the cheeseburger, everything on the side. Kevin informed me it was a picky 15 years old and her mum. For once I wasn't getting slammed in the butt by orders, and while a minor request, splitting up ingredients on an item always irks me because many times the items complement each other and might not taste quite right individually, causing the entire dish to suffer a subpar review. Yes, maybe my head was up my butt a little, but Kevin gave me all the encouragement I needed when I repeated the order, emphasizing on the everything on side, which he emphasized back with a laugh and wink. When this chick's burger was done, everything had its own ramekin or small plate to the point where half their table was topping plates. I'm talking lettuce, tomato, pickle, meat, melted cheddar cheese, bun, caramelized onions, and fries all had their own plate territory. As each plate came out, the mum laughed and laughed at the daughter, knowing exactly what was going on and loving it. Kid had a sour expression after realizing she'd have to play build a burger, but hey, careful what you ask for, right? The next one is titled, Teach You Something You Don't Know? Sure. Going through school, I got involved with a volunteer first aid brigade, though a friend named who I will call Jim. As a result, I became one of the youngest medical first responders in the country due to how much work I put in. I was trained to use the AED, shown how IVs worked, not used them, hook up people to oxygen tanks, and other stuff that you wouldn't be taught in a regular first aid course. I was age 14, and helped quite a few people as a result of my training and volunteer work. Can't say that I officially saved any lives though, but I digress. Shortly after getting out of high school, I got a job as a first aid instructor for a short while, though admittedly my age, I believe 17 to 18 at the time, didn't really inspire much confidence in my trainees, as most were much older than me. In many cases, I was assigned to renew people's certificates, rather than actually teaching. In other cases, my class didn't really take me seriously due to my age. I didn't really mind this, as I was passionate about it at the time, having the knowledge that what I am teaching could possibly save people's lives. In this particular class, my clients were a class of high school students who needed their basic first aid for their classes. I don't recall what for, exactly. This is a 5 to 6 hour course that ends with multiple choice tests. Easy money. This was at the high school I went to, and surprise of surprises, this was a teacher I didn't particularly enjoy having. We still got along for the most part, but her way of teaching was awkward. It's a little difficult to describe without being in her class personally. She always acted as though the students knew all the answers, but were too shy to speak. Even if a student said they didn't know, she would say things like, "It's okay to answer, nobody is judging," and stuff like that. As I was not much older than the students, they weren't listening to me. There was one group of students that kept shouting, "Tell us something we don't know." I know, the basic first aid course, at least at this time, was repeating the same thing over and over again until you're brainwashed to repeat it, but show some respect. Teacher, of course, no help. During the break, the teacher took me aside and told me to teach the students something they didn't know. A lot of the basic first aid is common knowledge and common sense. You're holding back, you know a lot more than what you are teaching. Show the students you know more than them. Okay, sure. I talked to the principal of the school, who I was in good terms with, about what the teacher said and the students, and with his and the master instructor's permission, I added in a little-known module in the handbook to the lesson. When the students come back in, I start to talk. Some of you expressed that you want me to teach you something you don't know. Normally, at this point, I would show you a video about asthma, but as I am sure everyone knows about it, I have gotten special permission to change the lesson. Everyone, please turn to Module 28 in the textbook. The students complied and a few gasps and chuckles echoed through the room. The teacher doubled over laughing, losing her own composure as well. So, admittedly, I will be teaching this directly from the instructor's handbook, as I have never taught this module personally. We are going to be starting with a video. The class then proceeded to watch a 7-minute video on how to perform emergency childbirth. The video, fortunately, wasn't graphic, but certainly informative. Afterwards, I called the students that had been going, "Teach us something we don't know," to come to front and demonstrate the proper technique, using one of the CPR dummy as mother, and a head as the baby. Finally, we discussed how to take care of the placenta, and how to administer ongoing care. After the module, the students were extremely attentive, to say the least. Now that I have taught you something you don't know, how about we get through the rest of the lesson without any more interruptions? The class complied, and no one interrupted me the rest of the session. Despite the malicious compliance, I didn't get in any trouble for it, and continued to teach the classes for this school first aid until I let my instructor's certification expire. The next time I went in, the teacher warned the students that I would teach them something they didn't want to know if they interrupted me. And that, dear reader, is the time I taught a class of high schoolers how to perform emergency childbirth. I doubt I would ever get away with doing something like this now, but I will always remember this moment. The next one is titled, "School Wants Quiet Students." Setting the scene, I went to a very small, new charter high school. I was a member of the second class that ever graduated, with my 25 classmates. There were around 150 people in the entire high school, and I was known for being the rowdiest of all. I spent more time suspended detention than in class. The malicious compliance. One day, I'm chatting in the back class with some friends, and this one teacher just finally snaps. "Can you guys just go one mother duck a day without making any noise?" QMC. The entire rest of the day, I spend getting every student in the entire high school, plus a cool teacher and the janitor, to agree to not speak or make a single noise the following day. No loud shoes, no running, and walk quietly, all phones on silent, not vibrate, no chewing gum, the whole 9 yards. Following day, to my surprise, literally everyone comes through to stage this weird, pointless silent protest. The first class period is super tense. You can literally hear the expo marker writing on the whiteboard. The teacher's questions hang in the air with eerie lack of reply, even from the normal teacher's pets, but it goes on. Immediately after, all the teachers, except one, who has noticeably called in today, are asking each other in the hallway what the duck is going on. Second period rolls in, and the teachers are starting to ask lots of questions, clearly beginning to freak out, because the silence is so unnatural. By third period, somehow no one has broken yet, and the principal walks into the class where I am, points at me, and gestures for me to follow. In her office, she looks at me point blank, asks, "What did you do? I know you're behind this." I say nothing but stifle a laugh. She tells me I've earned detention. I don't care. Literally the rest of the day no one speaks or makes a sound, and teachers and staff come ask me what the duck is going on every 15 minutes. Once school ends, and we're outside the building, the cacophony of student laughter erupts. We explain the next day, and nothing comes of it, but the teachers ask specifically that we never do that again. When I saw the janitor the next day, he said it was hilarious, and none of the staff even attempted to speak to him, so he just got to watch everyone panic because of quiet, well-behaved teenagers. The last one is titled, Manger Trying to Throw Staff Under the Bus. I recently started working with an old coworker and was reminded of a story from the place we worked at 10 years ago. I was a junior, mid-developer for a mid-sized company. The different managers had been in the company for a long time. They knew the old system and could keep it limping along. They understood the business just because they were there for so long. But they never kept up with the changing technology. None of them understand the newer concepts and refuse to learn anything. The company started to rewrite the app from the ground up using all new technology and good practices. The old guard sat back and did minimal work, laziness or not understanding what to do, no one really knew. They would come to the morning meeting, assign the work. Take no tasks but take all the credit at the demos. One thing that was a massive pain point to clients was bulk data loads. Some clients would need over 4 hours to load the data from that day. This was unacceptable in the new system. We had a prospective client come in, they loved the system but would not sign on unless we can get data loads down to minutes. Because of the client we refocused and started work on data loads. The team was myself, 2 others devs and my manager. She wanted to be on this because it was so high profile and figured it would look great for her. The 3 of us figured she would do no work and just demo the features like normal. Wrong, this time she started to take critical tasks. We each work our tickets, making sure to add plenty of tests and check performance of all the code. Slowly my manager would hand her work to us. This was fine with us as we did not trust her code. At the end of the cycle we had it down to 20 minutes to load what used to take an hour. This was not good enough. The CTO said we had to get it under 10, my manager jumped on his side and said the work we did was poor and she would fix it. The CTO left, she turned to us and told us we had to figure this out within a week. We noticed right away that it did not scale correctly. If 10 items took 1 second, 20 would take 4. We all knew what happened. We found the little bit of code my manager wrote and she was recursively checking data. What was even better is that the entire function was unneeded. We commented out the call and 20 minutes was now seconds. We took the 4-hour file and loaded in 2 minutes. We said nothing to my manager and she never asked because she thought we had no chance of figuring it out. I heard her speaking to consultants. She wanted to be the hero and have them all ready to come in and fix our code. The next demo the CTO wanted an update, we told him we had made updates and it should be a little better. We selected the large file and it was done in 2 minutes. My manager lost her mind, I could see her ready to kill us. If it was fixed the credit should have been hers. The CTO asked what the fix. I did not want to hurt my manager anymore, I figured stealing the glory was enough. I replied we just cleaned up the code. That was not good enough for my manager. She pressed whose code caused the problem. She had forgotten she has any code in the project since she never finished a task. I smiled and replied, it was your code. Her head exploded, nothing else was said, the meeting moved on. She pulled me into her office after and started to yell. She could not say anything to the other devs, they had a different manager. But I was under her. Why did I not tell her? I'm supposed to report to her my findings, how could I make her look like that? I just sat not saying anything. Once she was done I put in my 2 weeks notice and walked out. Days later her and the CTO called me in to beg me to stay. I said I'd like to go somewhere with a manager who wants my success not failure. I still smile thinking about her face when their process ran and telling her that she was the weak link in our group. Thanks for listening.